Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Game Junk Podcast, episode 205, recording on Tuesday, September 10th, 2024. My name is Frank.
And my name is Sean.
And it's been a big week in the world of PlayStation, some good, some bad. We'll touch on it all here today, including the PS5 Pro announcement today, the launch of what many are calling the game of the year, Astro-Bot, and a game that many are calling the biggest failure of all time, Concord, being shut down completely after my praise. It's done. Benito.
Yeah, crazy.
So, I don't know, Sean, what do you want to do first? I'm going to put you...
Well, I mean, we should quickly say also, like, Huck is on a work trip right now, I think, which is why he's not here. We just finished recording like a almost 3-hour film junk podcast. It's been a long night, but there's so much to talk about in the world of video games. We got to do this.
Yeah, my schedule has been insane lately, and just trying to find a little time to talk about things. And I feel like there's quite a bit to talk about. So it's unfortunate that Huck's away. This is the only day really we could align somewhat. So really the only night I was available. So let's go. PlayStation 5 Pro. Let's do that first.
Okay.
Big announcement of the day. Mark Cerny thought it might be NAC 3 for a second. People were talking, saying NAC 3 is about to...
I was hoping that would be the game that would showcase the PS5 Pro is like it's launching with NAC 3.
Exactly. I haven't gotten to... I'm assuming there's a NAC bot in Astro-Bot. I haven't gotten...
I hope so.
If there isn't, I'm going to be pissed. But about a 10-minute presentation about the PS5 Pro. Not all that technical. Just kind of felt like a Apple presentation in a lot of ways, where they just say 40% faster twice. Just a bunch of numbers indicating this is a faster system being thrown at you. And then the main number being thrown at you, the price. And in the US, it's $699. Is that correct? $700?
Yep.
And I believe you have the Canadian price, Sean?
I think I saw it was $969 or was it $959? I can't remember now.
Like, that seems like even more than exchange to some degree.
$959.
So quite a big price tag in Canada and the US.
And that's without a disk drive.
Correct. And after I watched it, I got kind of pulled into the Beyond podcast for IGN before I got off the feed. And that seems to be the biggest sticking point with people, how expensive it is. And they were really focused on there's no killer app or something you need PlayStation 5 Pro for. Now, let's be honest, if there was something you needed the PS5 Pro to play, they'd be mad at that because it's not fair to people who have a PlayStation 5. So no matter what PlayStation does, they're not going to win on IGN, that's for sure. But it's hard to disagree that the price is ludicrous. It's a lot of money for nicer looking trees and background characters in games. So yeah. I'm really struggling to see the benefits. I cannot see myself buying one of these. If I do, there's only one way I'm going to do it, and that's if they sell it at Shoppers Drug Mart and I can use Optimum points to buy it, or at least get Optimum points.
That's a pretty shocking statement. I mean, I just assumed Frankie was in regardless. So if you're not sure if you're buying this, they got problems.
Yeah. I mean, let me add one other caveat here. I did buy a second PlayStation 5 Slim last year. So if I got like a really good trade-in deal, I can't see them giving you more than, I bet it's probably 400 trade-in credit. So it's still $550 to upgrade to a Pro, which is cuckoo bananas. I don't know. I honestly, I think I'm out unless some game comes along that really showcases the power of the PlayStation 5 Pro. I don't think I'm even able to tell the difference, to be honest.
Yeah, so well, thinking back, so I bought a PS4 Pro and I did buy an Xbox One S at some point. Now that I remember was mainly about getting a 4K UHD player at the time. So that kind of sweetened the deal. PS4 Pro, I don't totally remember what was going on at the time or why I felt like I needed to have that. But yeah, it's always tough with these like kind of part way through the cycle upgraded console. And I mean, they're already talking about like I think the new Xbox they're targeting 2026. I don't know if that means PS6 is also targeting 2026, possibly. I assume they'd be close to that.
I'm guessing the next Xbox thing is similar to a PS5 Pro, like an intermediate step
Yeah,
up.
I don't
That's
know.
still
Like
playing all
I've
the
been
same
hearing
games.
that we're already past halfway in this console cycle. So, I mean, that kind of gets you thinking. But I was also eyeing the PS5 Slim recently, just because of like sometimes the kids are using the rec room, they have friends over or whatever. I still want to play. I'm kind of like, I wish like I know I have the portal. I do have the portal. I guess that's what it's for. But I don't know. It'd be nice to have another one in another room. So I was kind of like hoping maybe this could work out. But that price was just like it obviously had been rumored for months now. And a lot of people have been saying, oh, maybe they'll hit like a $500 price point. And this is like just not even close to that. So
I mean, if it was 700 in Canada, I'd probably talk myself into it. But $1,000? I mean,
yeah, I mean, at that point, you could buy a PC, right? Like,
well, I'm still just for a blue haze nut job like me. I'd still probably buy it, but I just don't think I can rationalize it. Needless to say, I still think pre-orders will sell out. I think there is a market of diehards and just people with a lot of money who will still buy this. So I don't. Everyone's like, I don't know who this is for. This is a failure. This is not going to sell. I still think it'll sell out. It just, I don't think they're going to make that many. Would be my guess. And I don't know. They didn't think the PlayStation Portal would sell, and it's done very well. I just bought one. I'm not crazy about it, but I bought it. I might return it actually. But I still think it'll sell okay. And I wouldn't be surprised if they just slash the prices of both in a year or something like that and take a year of just diehards and early adopters buying it at a crazy price.
yeah, I think if you are like a hardcore PlayStation person, that's your ecosystem. You don't play anything else. Maybe that makes sense. But, if you kind of like to play all the consoles and own all of them and stuff, it's really tough to justify that. And
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, do you have tech specs there at all? I don't really. The biggest,
uh,
well, the way they framed the whole video was not having to choose between fidelity mode and performance mode. You get both. The idea is to have both, even though towards the end of the video, they're like, well, obviously developers can choose how to use this extra processing power. They don't have to use it for that choice. So I thought that was a particularly strange framing of what they're trying to accomplish rather than just saying it's faster, whatever.
yeah, I mean, I didn't mind that way of framing it just because, like part of it is when these things come out, you're kind of like, okay, do developers need to, because like developers can't necessarily take advantage of the hardware if they still need to support like the lower end version of it. So what are we really getting here? And obviously those two modes are a thing that most games have. So that was just like an easy way to be like, oh, okay, I can have both. That's kind of cool. But um, the idea of like uh, having like higher frame rates for older games like PS4 games. I mean, it feels like they could have done that with the current hardware, to be honest. I really don't get that, but
Yeah, it feels like all of this, even the initial polls I saw about the PlayStation 5 Pro were Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be the thing you want it for. So maybe it's all set up for that. Maybe they'll bundle one with Grand Theft Auto 6. I think there was a Grand Theft Auto 5 bundle with PlayStation at some point. So it could just be laying down some track for that eventual announcement. But other than that, not a whole lot to say. Like 13 games they announced that are going to be upgraded. I was kind of tempted to just wait to play Horizon and some other games with the PlayStation 5 Pro until I saw the price, because I found that game to be particularly choppy when I played it before. So I'm not sure. It's just they'll sell a few of these, not many. I don't think it really matters. Maybe like the big absence for me was not using the extra power for VR.
yeah, I saw some people asking about that. I mean, it didn't say it won't be used for VR, but they just didn't mention it at all. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, which that was a big feature or plus for the PS4 Pro was okay, better VR.
Right.
So it's not that I care. It just makes me think even more they're kind of abandoning VR.
Yeah. So if you wanted some stats, I mean, basically what they said was the GPU has 67% more compute units than the current PS5, 28% faster memory. That makes for 45% faster rendering. They have more powerful ray tracing, and rays are cast at double or sometimes triple the speeds of the current PS5, and then something called spectral super resolution, an AI-driven upscaling that uses machine learning to provide super sharp image clarity by adding an extraordinary amount of detail.
Well, until something is better at demonstrating immediate impact of this console, I think they're going to be in real trouble. And the real, like, the IGN group was saying games are already costing too much to make and the art is too intense already. So having more processing power is just going to probably make it harder to develop games for or take more time. I don't necessarily agree with that at all. There's like level of detail and procedural systems that they could be taking advantage of already, but they remove elements to get it to run in for performance on consoles, but the art's already done to that level of fidelity. So I don't think that's an accurate statement. And they seem to push the idea that Astro-Bot, it's not, I think it's technically amazing, but it doesn't scream next gen, that game, other than the controller.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, that game got developed in a few years. And that's not the whole story with Astro-Bot. They are reusing a lot of assets from Rescue Mission and Astro's Playroom. So they're doing very smart development on that game. So nothing wrong with that, but it's not the whole story of a game you just heard about. I started playing Rescue Missions on VR last week, and I'm shocked at how similar it is to that game.
Yeah, I mean, definitely music and bosses and a lot of enemies are definitely being reused. So
they, and again, I don't have a problem with that at all. I just think was a very smart development move by that team in Sony. So I don't know. I don't have too much else to say about the PS5 Pro. Definitely an underwhelming announcement, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not running out to buy one. Maybe down the road, but yeah.
Shoppers Drug Mart, you're my only hope. Please carry the PS5 Pro. All right. Anything else to say about that? We're not giving this a letter grade.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Okay. So let's move on. Might as well do news. Let's do Concord.
Okay.
The Concord. The day after, I'm ranting and raving, loving everything about Concord. Unprecedented is the only word that comes to mind. They are pulling Concord and refunding everyone who bought this game. And I also got a refund for my deluxe upgrade, which I paid $30 for after I bought the game. And So I have received my refund. I'll say that right now. And they're pulling the game and deciding a better path forward. So basically admitting this game was a failure. I thought it was a great game. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was a good value for $50. Other people clearly didn't think so, which I think makes sense. There's at least 5 competitors that are free to play. So if you can't, if you're not going to get a user base while those games are free, it's not going to happen. But I really hope it comes back in a free to play form. I'm kind of hearing it's unrecoverable, and I've seen articles to that extent, but I don't know. I don't see them just throwing it away. It's a good game.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, this is definitely a weird situation. I can't think of really any other times something like this has happened. And I mean, yes, the most of the, when the news broke, most people were kind of framing it as Concord's done, shutting down. They didn't really touch on could it come back, and obviously free to play is the obvious choice there. Kind of feels like you at least give that a shot. I don't know, like why not? Like that to me, that's the reason they're refunding people, is because obviously the people who paid for it would be pissed if you like immediately shift to free to play. But
so they probably have to add a battle pass. They have to monetize it somehow or attempt to. So I think that that's probably what they're discussing. I wouldn't be surprised if they launch it for free when they know the battle pass plan and just get people playing it a bit and then launch the battle pass after. But I don't know. I was just crushed. I was literally crushed. I wasted 30 hours of my time playing that game in the hopes that I was going to own Concord. I would be the Concord guy.
And so I didn't go for the punched. You didn't go for the plat before shutdown.
Could do it. It was highly unlikely, and I really didn't have the time to do it. So I just said bye-bye and praying it comes back, because I did enjoy it. I thought it was very polished, slick game. I am disappointed that Concord is dead. So rest in peace. Maybe we'll see you another time, Concord.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, I guess the one question is, there was a lot of negativity seemingly about this game. Like, I don't know if that's why it failed necessarily. Like, I think the free to play thing is probably it. People just didn't want to pay money for it. Yeah. But then again, people have pointed out that they did have some free beta periods, and not a lot of people were playing then either. So maybe it just didn't catch people's attention. I think I understand why people are trying to break into this market. I also understand why it's hard to crack this market. But, the established ones are there. People probably have played them a lot and might be interested in trying something new if you can find a way to catch their attention. It's just...
I got a solution. Concord is exclusive to PS5 Pro and comes pre-installed.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy a PS5 Pro if that's the case. It's the only way.
It's not a bad thought. You might want to contact Sony with that one.
I'm in. I buy a PS5 Pro day one if this is the case. Yeah. All right. So kind of let's get to the meat in the shit sandwich. So 2 shitty shit news number 1, and then the shit news of the PS5 Pro. In the middle was some absolutely delicious meat and good news for Sony. Getting into what we played, they launched Astro-Bot on Friday, and so far seems like consensus game of the year, highest Metacritic. I'm hearing a lot of people say game of the year, including Sean on Discord. Hope I'm not speaking out of turn there, but potentially game of the year. And I'm seeing a lot of my friends on PlayStation playing it all the time. I've played it. Sean, you've played it. Is Astro-Bot game of the year?
Well, I can't say for sure. I will say as of right now, yes, I think it's game of the year for me. And it's one of those things where it's like, I can understand it some people looking at it and being like, it's just a platformer. What's the deal? But it looks amazing. It's super creative. It's kind of just fun for people of all gaming skill levels, and all ages. And, it obviously there's the PlayStation nostalgia stuff that they dig into a little bit, which is, I think it's more than nostalgia, because obviously there's characters and games they're actually taking mechanics from, which I did not expect. But yeah, it's just like fun, and it's, you kind of have the initial playthrough of a level, but then you also I'm feeling the pull to go back and obviously find everything, which I don't always do. Sometimes I just blow through a game and I'm done. But it's kind of like an experience I want to savor. I want to take my time, go through every level, see every little thing. So yeah, I'm really
How far are
enjoying
you,
it.
Sean? Where are you at?
I'm on the third world, just beat the boss and got to the level after that.
Okay. So I'm kind of doing everything, like 100%ing each planet or galaxy. So I'm only done the first two, for reasons we'll get into later. And I am loving it. I don't know if it's quite game of the year yet for me. I'm kind of surprised by how short it is. And like, it's probably like 9 or 10 hours. Not that that's bad. I don't care. But the levels are pretty basic. It kind of fits right in between Super Mario Brothers Wonder and Odyssey for me. It's kind of like the difficulty level of Wonder, but there's a lot more creativity and less repetition, where I still think Odyssey is a better game at this point. Like if we're talking modern 3D platformers, so far, after 2 worlds in, Odyssey is a better game to me and has the same level of invention, but I prefer the open world structure to that game. And I feel like this game is bordering on simplistic, and I'm fine with that. I still love the game, but it's missing a bit of challenge for me. That we'll see. The other worlds could provide that challenge I'm looking for, and some of the challenge levels, which have been fun as well. So that's not to say I don't love the game. I'm really enjoying my time with it. The thing, not surprisingly, that really makes it sing is the dual sense. Like it feels so good. And I keep thinking back to that one of the first levels in Mario Wonder where you run on the music note blocks and the HD rumble. You feel it as you go across. And that's really the only place they did that in Mario Wonder. And those types of feedback and sensations are happening the entire time you're playing this game. It just elevates it to another level.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of like Astro's Playroom, obviously being one of the first things I played on the PS5. And that was kind of their showcase of the dual sense. And I'm like, oh yeah, like this was pretty cool. And nobody else has used it. Like, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
But
so
yeah,
it definitely helps. Like the game also, it probably didn't help me that I was playing rescue missions. They're very similar. It kind of just felt like I continued playing that game without a VR helmet on.
Yeah.
And so it feels a little less novel to me as opposed to someone who wasn't playing that game immediately before this, because it's not bringing a whole lot more to the party. If anything, it's swapping out certain powers on the touchpad with the you pick up every level typically has a power up that you use the shoulder buttons and tilt controls to do something. And so far, those are kind of hit and miss for me. The boxing arms I think are fantastic. The monkey arms where you grab and have to tilt the controller, I'm not crazy about that, and I thought it was kind of annoying and unintuitive and slow, but not horrid. And it'll be interesting to see how much it keeps up the momentum. And something like where you suck like goo and then make platforms out of it, like that has a great flow. So if it keeps adding stuff like that, I could see it reaching the level of Mario Odyssey for me, but they're clearly borrowing from the best platformers ever, Mario Galaxy and Mario Odyssey, to like always be doing something different, small levels, focused, how it introduces mechanics. It's just, I'm too early to say it's game of the year or top three for me until I see, does it push it a little further? And I thought Mario Wonder was game of the year after the first two worlds potentially, but it just recycled ideas too much and was too short and ultimately not that interesting towards the end of the game. So I just finished World 2. At the end of World 2, it completely introduces like this God of War level where you use the Leviathan axe. I'm like, okay, if the game keeps up at this pace, it might win me back to be game of the year. So I'm just a little too early to say for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's so far it has been pretty much it for me. Every level's a unique experience, something cool and new that you haven't done before. Like there, a couple of the powers are reused, I believe, but they're usually applying it in like a new way. So yeah, it's very Nintendo in that sense. But it's just interesting. Like you think of platformers, and it's like, who's making platformers other than Nintendo, right? Like it's basically just indie games that you're competing with. So this is like a triple A platformer with visuals that kind of blow Nintendo out of the water. Like I like Nintendo's art style and stuff, but it's just like to see something at that level, like you just don't see it very much. So that I think is part of why it's impressive. And obviously the dual sense, like you mentioned.
I could do without the fly into the level where you tilt. You know, what I mean, like, is there an option to just start the level? I'd like that, please. And the levels are really short, like really short.
So, I mean, some of them are a little longer, but yeah, I mean, I don't mind the shortness of the levels. Like I don't know. I don't have a problem with that.
The thing that's grown on me the most after World 2 was the hub level. At first, the first hub level, when you return to it, it's like this hammer mini game, which I thought was kind of boring and not that great. But in World 2, I had the chainsaw cutting the ice. And then I was fully exploring this hub world, and some of the bots you get from the PlayStation catalog of games start to get really inventive and cool. And I just like the one from Okami, and there's a few other ones that I've just unlocked that I'm like, this is so awesome. They're gonna make I would be surprised if they don't make these into like Funko Pops, like all these Astro toys and
I mean, I
all
hope
that stuff. Because I would probably buy them.
Yeah, that crash site level is interesting because there's, at first it just seems like, okay, you just go here to buy like the gotcha eggs or whatever. But then there is stuff to explore there. There's also kind of this Pikmin-esque thing. Like they don't really do that much with it, but like the idea of like bringing all the bots you've collected around to do things with. One thing that was a little weird. So there is a change room. I don't know if you've unlocked that yet, where you can play as different bots.
No.
But the thing is, I would have assumed that you just get to play as any of the ones you've collected. That's not the case. There are special like costumes that you get from the gotcha machine, and you have to use those.
They definitely improved the gotcha machine from rescue missions. It was cumbersome and annoying in VR. It's quick, and I love how its attachments for a bunch of them are like it's weapons, or I got like Jill Valentine, the red heart key door accessory. Like I love how they actually relate back to that hub world. So that's a huge improvement for me, even though it's utterly meaningless, but it adds that charm. People will say this is a charming game, and it would be pretty much impossible to deny. So I'm loving my time with it. I'm not rushing through it. I don't know if that's a compliment to the game or a negative, that I want to savor it, but I'm worried I could blow through this thing in a day if I wanted to, the same way I did the one on PlayStation in 3 or 4 hours, but I don't really want to. I kind of try to do a world a day and pace myself, and I'm just enjoying my time with the game.
Yeah, I do agree. I thought initially the selling point was it was kind of like, oh, this is like a full length Astro-Bot game, and it's certainly longer than Playroom, but I think from what I've seen, it's about the same length as Rescue Mission.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it would be a little longer, but I don't know. Like I said, I'm enjoying doing pretty much all of it. Hey, maybe this will be my second platinum. You never know.
I think it will be. And if you like it, well, it's easy to platinum because when you play a level for the second time, you can pay 200 coins to have them help you find stuff, which
That's true.
I like. I enjoy that. If you like this game, go back if you have PlayStation VR and play Rescue Missions. It's very similar. It's going to be hard for me to stomach people saying this is game of the year and then they didn't have Rescue Missions in their top 10 that year or something like that because they're almost the same game.
Yeah, but I mean, I really think they're banking on, like, the reason they're reusing a lot of stuff is they think nobody, and maybe the sales prove that not a lot of people had PSVR and played Rescue Mission. So
yeah, I'm not mad at Joe Consumer for that, but I would harbor some resentment for video game journalists.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm going to be checking everyone's list. If you put this in your top two, I'm going through all your past lists.
I think I had Rescue Mission on one of my lists. Whatever.
I think you did. I think you did. You definitely were a fan of that game and said as much. So I'm not coming after you, bud. You're safe.
Now, I got to ask you one really important question here, Frank. Do you know what it is?
Have I found the Concord bots yet?
No.
Okay.
This game does have a blowing mechanic.
Oh, yes, the blowing mechanic. I'll be perfectly honest. It's only happened once for me so far.
Okay.
How many times have you encountered the blowing mechanic?
I'm pretty sure there's a level where you use it multiple times.
Okay, not crazy about that. My problem with the blowing mechanic in Donkey Kong Country Returns was, like, I'm trying to do time trials and explore a level, and you're forced to blow a lot. I thought it's a cool one-off on, what was it, Spirit Tracks or Phantom Hourglass, where you had to blow to solve puzzles. I'm not against blowing mechanics as a blanket rule. It's how often and how they're used. So this one has not offended me yet. It's used sparingly, and let's go into full blue haze mode. Astro-Bot uses blowing the absolute perfect amount for a game.
Okay. I think that's a fair statement.
Yep. Perfect.
But yeah, not too much else to say. I mean, I think the boss fights are always fun and a highlight of a world.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much buying into the hype. I just wish it was maybe a little longer, but we'll see.
The DualSense really makes this thing sing. Have to give them absolute props, the utmost respect for putting the amount of effort they do into DualSense integration, because it makes the hugest difference.
Yeah, there's a lot of little details. Like, it's not just, like, I know one of the big things is when you pull those things out and it's got kind of that spring effect.
Yeah.
But there's also, like, there was one level, I can't remember what it was, but I was on, like, some platform and it was kind of like creaking, like it was rusty and it was like just slightly bending a little bit, and it had that feel of it in the DualSense, and it was like really cool. So
when you use the trigger powers, it's always adding something there. It's
when you crush the eggs in the gacha machine, I mean, It feels real good.
Yep. Phenomenal. Can't wait to beat it. Just taking my time.
Yep, for sure.
Okay. Speaking of revisiting year-end lists, I finally completed Red Dead Redemption 2, the whole story and epilogue. That's why I've been a little far behind on Astro-Bot. I just want to get this game. I'm like, I got to finish Red Dead. I want it off my plate. And by the end of the story, let's talk pre-epilogue. I was very satisfied with the conclusion. Although my cynical take on this game is, everything, it's realistic. It's almost like a life simulator kind of thing. Except, how is it that my gang has 4 people And every other gang in the Wild West has endless waves of like people that come after me, like literally into the 50s and hundreds of Pinkertons in one mission that all of a sudden come out of nowhere to fight me. Like that doesn't happen in real life. So that's the one thing. The last few missions, I know I love shooting. I know it's the best mechanic ever. It's just wave after wave of enemy, and I'm just getting a little sick of it at this point. And just a few less enemies, and I wouldn't even notice it. I'd be like, okay, that was fun. I shot a few enemies, but they just keep coming, and it was trying my patience. The epilogue, I'm kind of torn on. I love some of the farming activities you do, but again, the other missions got a little repetitive. So I was Red Deaded out. To be fair to the game, I think it's quite the achievement. One of the most impressive games I've ever played. I still feel that way. One of the best looking games I've ever played, just not one of the most fun. So not much has changed about my feelings about the game other than I'm glad I finally beat it. And I kind of want to play online a bit, try to posse up and see what that experience is like. And I may return to do a bit more. Oh, that's the other thing that pisses me off. The game does not tell you you're going to lose a bunch of stuff that you have in this game, especially money, although you get a bunch back. I don't know. I felt ripped off and cheated by the game on more than one occasion. And I know the excuses. Well, that's what happens in real life. This game is supposed to make you think about your life and your decisions and aging and all those things. And I think it explores those themes really well for a video game. So I'm not knocking it, but I think it could be a little more fair to the player in terms of communicating when things are going to happen that you cannot take back in the game. You don't want me to use guides. Well, this is a game where I wish I really would have gone into detail with the guide, and I would have known about some stuff that I believe is unfair to the player. But it's done. Time to move on to Horizon Zero Dawn, which I've been playing as well. I'm going back to do the whole
replaying the first game.
Yeah, and then I'm going to do Forbidden West. That's next on my list.
Nice.
Among other things, which I have another thing, but you go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have too much else. I mean, I have still been playing Star Wars Outlaws. I think I hit the point where I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to push through and try to finish this game. It's still like I'm enjoying the world. I'm enjoying exploring. Story and everything is actually pretty good. It's just the stealth stuff. And if you're into stealth, I'm sure you like that. For me, it's like, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just like, I don't know. I don't always look forward to the stealth specific missions. So kind of do one and then go off and do some other stuff for a bit. But I'm liking it. That's all I'll say for now. I just wanted to mention a game called Pico Park 2. So the original Pico Park, from what I understand, I believe it was like a free game on Steam. And I did play a bit of that at some point. But the sequel just came out. I think it was like announced as part of the last Nintendo Direct or Indie World or whatever it was. Basically, both games, they're kind of like these puzzle platformers that are made to be played co-op, but not just 2 players, potentially up to 8 players. So it's kind of interesting how they do some of the levels and the puzzles and stuff because they scale. So like, if you only have 2 people, you can accomplish it one way. If you have more than that, I mean, it's not like super, it's not that they have like a whole other way to beat the level, but they have a way of scaling them. That's kind of interesting. But it's short levels. The visuals are very kind of basic looking. I originally thought it was called Pico Park because it was developed on the Pico 8. Is that what that's called? That there's like a console, this sort of retro console that's supposed to make it easy to make games. I thought it was made on that. Apparently it wasn't. But anyway, short levels, and it's kind of, if you're playing with a bunch of people, I think probably the more people, the harder it gets for some of the levels. And so it's one of those ones where you kind of love to get mad at your friends and kind of get really frustrated and stuff. Like that's part of the fun. But we were playing it as a family, and yeah, that was happening, but we were enjoying it. So it's on the Switch and I think on Steam right now. I think those are the only platforms, I believe. But we were having fun with it. Pretty cheap. I think it's like $10. So if that
Nice.
sounds interesting, check it out.
I'll mention I've been playing Vampire Survivors again on PlayStation and enjoying myself quite a bit. But the other game I wanted to mention was Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2,
I was going
which
to ask if you were picking this up because I mean, we got roasted a little bit in the comments for junking this on our last episode, and I mean, I don't know Warhammer. I have no clue, but I am hearing good things about this. So tell me about it.
so I haven't played much. I've done the first mission. Had to give it a shot after we got roasted, dude. Absolutely roasted. And you know what? I'll play it. If you're telling me it's that good, you better be right, or I'm going to roast you. And I guess I don't have to roast them, but it's interesting to me that IGN has an article that Warhammer or Space Marine 2 is a 360 era shooter in the best possible way, which I think that's a fair statement. I just don't know why it only applies to Warhammer and not to other games, why it's always a criticism for other games that don't feel next gen, but this one, it's what you want. But I would say if I was going to steelman that argument, it's that it actually does incorporate a lot of different things. It's not just the Gears of War clone. It's added like melee combat and systems and economies and ideas that it's borrowed from like the modern Doom games. So there's hack and slash elements and shooting elements all packaged up into this very similar a game that's similar to Gears of War. So I was definitely having fun with the first mission, although I think the game could do a better job of teaching you some of its combat systems. I'm still not sure I fully understand parrying and the windows for parrying and some other stuff, but I'm kind of getting there as I failed one part of the mission and had to redo it a bunch of times. I think I've got all the mechanics down, but the shooting is satisfying on the DualSense. It feels great. And yeah, so far so good. I'm really impressed. Like the backgrounds are colorful. I think it looks great. The one player model was a little underwhelming, but their armor looks fantastic. And the hordes of enemies is really impressive. There are tons of enemies on screens. It's like kind of a World War Z kind of thing with these alien creatures. And yeah, I'm liking it so far. Haven't done any co-op or multiplayer stuff yet. I think Dax wants to pick it up, so might check that out at some point. But it's feels like it's about an 8-ish type game for me so far.
Okay,
so
that's pretty good.
Worth checking out and could improve. So I'm liking it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm considering picking it up, but I mean, I got as far as like looking at, okay, what Warhammer games do I actually own? Like maybe I should just try out one of these games and get a sense for, I know it won't be the same play style, but maybe the universe I'll learn a little bit about.
I think actually Space Marine 2 is the best place to learn. It gave me perfect summary of like high level what's going on in this series.
Okay.
And, I mean, if not, I would say Bolt Gun would be the game to try.
Yeah, I did download that one because it is on Game Pass. I think I understand that's more of like a boomer shooter, but
yeah,
I will. I'll probably give that a try at least. And I think I do have Vermintide and Darktide, maybe, or at least that's on Game Pass. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I will jump into Space Marine 2. I just kind of want to get through Astro-Bot and possibly Outlaws. We'll see.
Yeah, lots of games coming out, and is there any other major stuff?
Well, next week I think is Plucky Squire.
Oh no! Oh god, that's the 17th. Yeah.
So yeah,
oh boy,
I'll be playing that. And
okay,
then
I need
the week after
harder.
That. What's that?
I thought I was gaming hard lately, and you're telling me I got to game harder.
Yeah, you got to game harder. Like I think the week after that is Zelda, so that's like
start stacking my beds tonight.
Yeah.
I got to go upstairs after this. I'll try to get up the stairs in the most useless way possible rather than just using the stairs. So that game is going to be a lot of fun, that Zelda game. I can't wait to hear that game get Game of the Year talk. It's going to be brutal.
Why do you think it's going to be bad? I don't understand.
To showcase the game in the first trailer, rather than jumping, you stacked beds. That is not a good idea. I'll tell you that right. If that's your showcase idea, that's not a good sign. I hope I'm wrong.
No, I think they're going to have a lot more cool ideas than just
if instead of spawning enemies, or instead of fighting enemies, I have to spawn another enemy to let it fight for me. That is not a good idea.
Oh, okay. I'll give you that one. If there's no combat and you just make other people fight for you, that could be frustrating.
I mean, it's a necromancer gameplay kind of, but I don't know. I've got major warning signs on that new Zelda game all over the footage I've seen. I'm not vibing. I'm gonna vouch though. I'm in. I'll buy it.
Of course.
All right, Sean. I think that's it for me. You got anything else?
No, I think that about covers it.
All right. Well, not sure how much of a video component there will be for this. It'll be on youtube.com/GameJunk. Discord links are there as well. Sean's on X at FilmJunk. And thanks for listening or watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.